I want to welcome all of our members and friends here today. Thank you for coming out in this and the weather, and we're very appreciative of it. We have with us today a young man who I followed some of his work for the last couple of years. He's a very gifted medium, sensitive, and investigator for Unknown Paranormal Group. One of the tenets of EPIC is that we're interested in all types of extraordinary phenomena, not just UFOs, ETs, and that sort of thing, because over the 15 years or so that I was investigating sighting reports and so forth, we found that very often there are different types of phenomena associated with UFO and ET sightings. The traditional UFO groups tend to separate those out and not pursue them. And yet we've seen over a period of time that many of those peripheral type of events have become mainstream now. For example, the crop circle phenomenon, when it first came out, was widely ignored and made fun of as being, you know, the pranks of a couple of drunks, you know, at late night out in a cornfield, and of course, or wheat field. And of course, we all know now that these things are far too intricate to be created by even a talented group of students late at night. And so they're taken quite seriously now, and you know, have become a part of the mainstream. And so, so too has the notion of interdimensional travel and these sorts of things. So if these phenomena exist, then we're not sure which one of them may lead to ultimately to the answers we're looking for. And so tonight we want to present another view of the extraordinary, and please welcome Mr. Mike McCaskill of Unknown Paranormal Group.
Bear with me a sec here. Good afternoon, everybody. How are y'all today? I guess the premise to start the speech today is to tell you guys about the paranormal and what we do and who I am. So we'll start with who I am. My name is Mike McCaskill. I'm from a little town called Gilmer, Texas, about 110 miles east of here. I was born in mid-southern Louisiana. The paranormal for me, it all started when I was about 8 years old. I was 8 years old. We were in the transition, my parents were, from moving from Savannah, Georgia into Texas. My dad worked in construction / shutdowning in chemical plants and this kind of thing, so we were constantly traveling. What had happened is that generally when these things go on, my mother was in charge of setting us up a new place to live in the town that we were going. And she always had it done before we ever left. Well, what happened here this time is that the transition from Savannah, Georgia into Baytown, Texas, she couldn't find anywhere that she could just pre-book any of these kinds of things. So, and she had myself, my older brother, and a younger sister. And at the time, the only thing that she knew that she could do is call help from a family. And she had a sister, an older sister, who lived in Jackson, Mississippi. And she lived in an old Victorian home in Jackson. So her idea was to come into Jackson, Mississippi, drop us kids off for a couple of weeks so she didn't have us to deal with, along with trying to transition into a home. And which my aunt gladly agreed to. And for me, that's where the weird things started to go on. I started hearing little knick-knack things at night, and for me, I was 8 at the time, so every little nick and crack in an old house kept me up, you know, because I was just scared. And until one event. One event was we were there about a week, and what had happened was that you could walk into this old house and had what I'd like to call the Stephen King hallway, right? And it was just a long hallway, and if I were to go to it now, it's probably not that long, but for me, it was just creepy long. And our bedroom that we were staying in, little makeshift, was at the front, If you walked in the front door, our room was on the first to the left, me and my brother were. And the restroom was at the end of the hallway, and it would face you back this way. So every night, and I had this thing, I had to get up every night at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the restroom, and I'm 8, and there's this long, creepy hallway. So, and I was always concerned about seeing something, you know, the old creepy, you know, demonic looking thing is going to walk out of the door, you know. And funny enough is that about a week there, something like this happened. I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, having to go, walked out in the hallway and turned, and what was standing in front of the door of the restroom was, for me when I was 8, now that I'm older and I've looked back and revisited that, what it was is a Confederate soldier officer. And he was standing in front of that door, and what was strange about him is, one, there's a creepy guy in a uniform in my aunt's house, and I can see the door through him. And he was staring at me. And I stared at him, and we had this me, scared to death look, him, what are you doing in the hallway, back at me. And he lifted his hands up, and he turned his hands like this and started walking down the hallway at me. This is when the TV freak out happens. Man, I made all kinds of commotion, ran back into the room, and as I was running into the room, slid under the little bed that we were in and tried to wake my brother up. No one was waking up, and finally I just decided it was a good idea to be quiet. And because I was hiding under a little makeshift bed. And what was strange about him that I did notice before I darted into the room is that he was, like you would see on TV, the figure in white that's transparent, has no real color, but you can see every detail to this person, all the way to about his kneecaps. And then from kneecaps down was nothing. What was weird about that for me is it was for some reason traveling through my mind as I'm hiding under the bed is hearing the boots hit the hardwood floor as he was walking down the hallway. I could definitely hear them, and they sounded like they had spurs because there was definitely a chink, chink with the boom, boom going on. For me, I thought that I had made a grave mistake by not shutting the bedroom door. For some reason, I thought if I shut the door, I was going to live, but I didn't do that. I left it open, so now I'm going to die. But he made his way all the way down the hallway, and it seemed like he would stop 6 or 8 feet before the door. And this whole time, I am tugging away at my brother's blankets. Get up! You know, for some reason, he needed to be awake and die with me. I don't know. But this is what it is. But for me, standing there, laying there under the bed, and just all the emotions. There's just a lot of, they're just scared to death. I was 8 years old. And trying to understand what it is going on here. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. But good news is that the boot prints never made it to the door. He never come in the door, but he would march back the other way and pace his way up and down the hallway, up and down the hallway. From then on, it seems, from there on out, whatever this gift I've got seemed to turn on that night. And what's strange about it for me is that, and I'm trying to run across other sensitives and mediums, and maybe I can collect this together with others. What's really strange for me is that I'm going to send out to the crowd, and if anybody has any theory of this, man, please raise your hand. I'd love to hear it. Is that my childhood from that moment back is real hazy. I don't remember a lot of things. Bits and pieces of Christmases, bits and pieces of birthdays, but I cannot tell you anything really of any long story at all about life before that night for some reason. Now the life after that night, I'm 32 years old now. Since then, I've been actually trying to figure out what I saw in that hallway for the last 24 years. And I've gotten a lot of answers throughout the 24 years. Obviously, you have to grow up and then become a teenager and got some freedom, started going out with my buddies to cemeteries. And from then on out, once I become an adult, I started investigating as much as possible, doing as much research as I can, along with the fact the transition period between about 13 to 16 is when I was really having these really weird things going. It seemed like about 13 or 14, whatever this is, I got stronger. And it got to where I was seeing things almost every day. There were people that were walking with other people down sidewalks that would look at me and give me this, you know, sorry to do that to you, ma'am, give you that look. But you knew there was just something up, and sometimes they would get about right here and disappear. And then waking up in the middle of the night, hearing voices in the room, voices from the closets. Then I thought I was going crazy. You know, I thought, well, you know, maybe I need to be locked up. But I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't want to be locked up. So it was trying to figure out what was going on. And the only way for sure about that transition period is to test it, you know, to test it to see if, and I don't know why I thought of this, but just did, that the next time I see one of these entities, I'll talk to them. And that's where it goes into another story of about me and a circle of friends were just talking to one another one day, and this old woman appeared behind this guy. And she started telling me, this is my grandson. I need you to tell him that it's okay to have the necklace. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is a great opportunity, but this guy's going to punch me if this makes sense, right? So this is going to be weird. And I took the nerve and I did it. And I said, hey, man, your grandmother died lately? And he gave me that look like, what are you talking about my grandmother for? And I could tell that it made some sense to him. And did she? He goes, yeah, man, what's up? You know, I said, she said it's okay to have the necklace, and the guy just started crying. That was that point in my life where I said, okay, something's going on here, and it's real. It's very real. I can see it in this person's face that it's real. So I went home and I collected this and sat and thought about the whole crazy thing again. I was like, man, that just worked, you know? And I'm like, now, how crazy am I? You know, and am I seeing ghosts? Or am I reading his mind? What's going on here, right? And then I started doing some research again of really putting that whole thing together of just psychological exams. Look at schizophrenia, look at all these kinds of things and see if I match any of this stuff, right? And the things that I kept finding out that most commonly people that have some sort of mental disturbance, some sort of mental disease or anything like this that are suffering from this, what I found consistently is that those that are being treated for this generally don't know they're crazy. They think they're normal like everyone else. So why am I thinking I'm crazy? You know, this isn't working, right? You know, I couldn't find anything that I fit into. And that's when I started piecing it together with the fact of how interested I seem to be in ghosts, right? It seems to be like a calling. And it's really hard to explain it to someone unless it happens to you. I don't know if anybody in this room's had a calling to do a certain thing and you don't know why, but it just never leaves your mind. It's constantly, it's in your gut, and I have that. And so trying to understand this along with, at that point, I made the effort to know that really hit me the hardest about that deal with the man with the necklace is that I helped that guy understand something. And I got it even more, and about a week later when the guy came to me and said, man, how did you know about that necklace? And I'm like, I don't want to tell you this because you're going to think I'm crazy. He goes, well, I said, man, your grandmother appeared to me behind you, and she said that to me. And he goes, well, why would she do that to you? I was like, explain that to me, and we'll both know, brother. You know, I don't know. I just saw it, and this is just what she said. And he goes, man, I've been debating my whole life of whether, or not whole life, but since she passed away, and my mother gave me the necklace, whether I really deserve it or not. He said, she meant so much to me that I was afraid I was going to lose it, something was going to happen to it, and then I was going to be in a very bad place. And he said, for you to tell it to me eased my mind by a bunch of things. And he goes, and what's weird about it is that necklace. He goes, for anybody else, it's an inanimate object. He goes, and that necklace meant so much to me. And he said, just to test you, what did the necklace look like? And it was weird. The moment he said that, I just had a vision in my head about what a necklace would look like. So I explained it to him. And it's exactly on cue, exactly what this necklace looks like that I've never seen before. So with that said, I helped that guy understand something that he was torn about. So that's when the calling comes that whatever this is can help people. And if that's the case, that's my responsibility. And the more I try to do that throughout all these years to try to help those that want to understand the afterlife, if you will, then the better it seems to work sometimes. Now it has its ups and downs, right? I was asked to come in to tell you guys a little bit about me and a little bit about my experiences and where we've been and what we've done. So I want to ask you guys, generally I go to a lot of speeches and the guy or the person, whoever it is, does a slideshow and does their presentation and then asks for questions later. Please don't do that with me. If you have a question that's on your mind, raise your hand. I love to answer questions as we go. I've got a ton of knowledge. Some of it I forget while I'm talking. So please, questions, at any given moment would be perfect. If you notice, I don't have a script, right? I don't do that because I'm very convicted about what I do. So I've got 24 years I'm going to try to compile into basically an hour, hour and a half here, and then we're going to do some other things. To cue y'all in, also with the other things that are going on here, if you notice, there's a whole bunch of gadgets and gizmos on the table. Here in a little while, I'm going to explain to you what all this stuff is, and what we do with it. For the simple fact, brings me to the other part, and I'm going to shift on you guys back and forth, and if you know me, I do that a lot. If you don't, I might frustrate you, and I'm sorry. The scientific side of things. You know, I have this gift to understand things, to discern spirits, and sometimes they come through and they talk to me. And sometimes I can feel things in a room, and I don't know what they are. You know, I know a general area, and that's when the scientific stuff behind me kicks in. We can take these recorders and different kinds of devices, and the things that I pick up, our investigators, such as our founder here, and other investigators can take that equipment and go to that area, and quite often we'll catch something. We'll catch something, and for me that is just way cool, because I can take this stuff that I'm picking up, my God-given antenna here, if you will, and then it makes sense on the things that we catch that we can document. And we're going to try to play you some of this stuff that we have caught. We're having a little troubles with the speaker, it being loud enough. So I brought a speaker that we use in a lot of investigative stuff, and it's extremely loud. So I thought, man, we'll just use that. And then we plug it into this PC, not so loud. So we'll have to figure that out. Stories of things that have happened to me. To go back when I said that basis of help. Now, what was happening to me at that time is that my family, religious-wise, was torn. My aunts and my uncles over on this side were Pentecostals. My grandmother and my mom were Jehovah's Witnesses. We had some Baptist and we had some Catholic things going on in the family. So if I went to any part of the family and asked them about God, because I knew this thing come from somewhere, this was given to me by either, I figured since it's paranormal and it's freaky, it's got to come from either God or the devil. It's one of the two, and I hope it's not the devil, so I need to figure this out, right? Because the devil thing was really kicking me because of the Civil War soldier. That was my first event. Man, it scared the life out of me. You know, so I'm like, why? Why is it that way? Then why does I help? And why does it go this way? So growing up and becoming an adult, man, I've been really torn about which way to go and which way to do with this thing. And I try to be as humble and laid back as I can. You know, I've done readings for people and they're like, man, you're a godsend. I'm like, no, I'm just a fat guy, you know. I'm just a messenger. Things that I hear, I just talk about, you know. Things that I feel, I just talk about. And I let the people take from it they wish, you know. Take from they wish, by all means, put me on a pedestal, throw me in a trash can, I'm still going to be Mike McCaskill. You know, it's just going to do whatever I'm called to do. But with that said, I guess with that thought process, it has made me as a person kind of brave. You know, I'm willing to try anything. I'm willing to go anywhere. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to succeed. I'm just willing to learn is what it is. And so with that said, let's try the God aspect. That's what I did, right? I believed in God. I've always believed in God. But is God really kicking me in the pants this way, you know? And why, if he is, right? Because I see things, people, every day that people don't see. And I've been on investigations. I've seen some things, quite honestly, myself, and you don't want to see. You know, I've been in some pretty dark places, and I've seen some pretty terrible things. I've had entities, and we'll get into that in a little bit, that are just atrocious. And but I've had people's grandmothers, too. So I'll take the atrocity if somebody's grandmother needs to send a message to someone. Because my grandmother died in 2006, and this gift made sense to me that day because she come through and she told me some things that really settled me. So for me, that was definitely awesome. So with the God thing, I went to my mom, and is anybody familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses at all? Raise your hands. Anybody familiar with them?